talk to you a little bit about this study that I came across many years ago. And the whole impact, the whole importance of this study that I'm going to show you is, why is it so important that we write these things down? You need to, if you have a personal mission statement, you need to write it down. You can't just carry it in your head. You need to write it down. And I'm going to tell you why in a couple of minutes. But in 1979, at Harvard, they asked the graduating class coming out of the MBA, they asked them this question: have you set clear written goals for your future and made plans to accomplish them? Now, you can imagine that these students, if you've done an MBA at Harvard, you either are in massive student debt, or your parents paid for you and they're probably telling you, by the time you get out of here, you better find a good paying job to cover all of these expenses that have been incurred by your education. Or maybe you had a sugar daddy who paid your way through university, but even then there's going to be demands on you to pay that back in some way. So the point I'm making here is that these students looking out at their future, you can imagine that for them, probably the focus of their attention would have been on the money I'm going to generate when I leave here. Money is not everything. So somebody asked a question earlier about money and purpose. And you for sure, if you understand your purpose, you will make more money. But for many people, money is not the object. And so I want you to sort of categorize that. As we look at this example, I want you to understand that these students were thinking mainly about money, but that doesn't mean that's what you're thinking about. The principle that I want to talk to you about of writing these things down and how powerful that is, that's the lesson, that's the takeaway that I want you to get. So when they did this survey, this is what they found out. They found out that 3% of the students had written goals, 13% of the students had goals that were in their head. They had thought about them, but they were in their head. And 84% had no specific goals whatsoever. Now, since I found out about this study many years ago, I have done this survey in many different settings that I've been in, with hundreds and thousands of people and with small groups of people. And I've asked them this question, the same kind of question. So what I find out is that these numbers hold. 3 to 5% of people have written goals, 13 to 15% of people have goals that are in their head, and 80 to 85% of people have no specific goals whatsoever. And what those people in the 80 to 85% category, what they will say to me is some version of this: why would I set goals when I don't know if I'm going to accomplish them, and just be disappointed when I don't achieve them? And I always ask them, how disappointed will you be when you achieve nothing? Because that's what happens if you don't set your course. In fact, if we had longer in this seminar, the workshop, I would be sharing with you that if you don't have goals for your life, somebody else does. And that person who has goals for your life, those goals will be for their benefit, not yours. So it really is important for you to understand what your mission is and how you're going to build a structure around your life to accomplish that mission. Because if you do that, then you will accomplish your mission, not the mission of somebody else. And when you don't have plans and goals, people that are around you that do have plans and goals, those plans and goals are for their profit and not for yours. Now, that's very important for you to realize. So this was interesting because they came back 10 years later and they followed up with this class. And here's what they found out. They found out that the 13% who had goals, once again, those goals would have been around money, were earning twice as much as the 84% who had no goals at all. That's interesting. So they ended up in their work and in the things that they chose to do, they ended up earning twice as much money as the people who didn't have goals. But here's this will blow you out of the water. The 3% who had written goals were earning 10 times as much as the other 97% put together. Now, if that doesn't freak you out, I don't know what it would take to shake you, to say, wow, that's incredible, that's amazing. And I'm going to tell you, it's no surprise for the 13% who are earning twice as much. That's no surprise. We already know from research that if you're doing the work that you do on purpose, that you have a function and a plan in the work that you're doing, and you're doing it because you're passionate about it, you will, on average, earn twice as much money in your lifetime. And so for those of us who live in North America, and those are the only ones I can speak to in terms of income, I can just tell you that the average person will make around $1 million or maybe a little bit more in their lifetime. So this workshop is worth $1 million to you. And you know, you're not even being charged for it, but still it's worth $1 million to you if you live in North America. Now, if you live in other parts of the world, it's still going to be worth twice as much as what people in your vicinity would earn in their lifetime. So it's very powerful. So, but here's what happens with the 13% who had goals that were in their head. As human beings, this is just human nature. We do not want to look at ourselves in the mirror every day and say, we had goals, but we're not achieving them. So what happens is that these goals that we carry in our mind, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to accomplish this, I want to accomplish that, we adjust those goals as we move down the timeline of our life. We adjust those goals to the reality that we are currently experiencing. This is very important for you to understand. So if someone said to me, you know, one of my students, if they said to me, I'm going to be a millionaire by the time I'm 35. So if I go to them at the age of 35 and I say, so are you a millionaire? And they had done this, they had put that goal in their head and they're moving down the timeline of their life, chances are they wouldn't be a millionaire yet, but they might say to me, oh no, not yet, but I'll have my first $500,000 year this year. Okay, so now if I get obnoxious and I say, but I thought you said you were going to be a millionaire by the time you're 35, they would say to me, no, I said I was going to be on my way to becoming a millionaire by the time I'm 35. That's what we as human beings do. So consequently, my next slide is really important. Very important that you write it down, especially if you're being inspired by this presentation and we're talking about personal mission statement, then do not let this opportunity get by you without you writing down what you're thinking and what you're dreaming right now. Because writing it down captures the thoughts of the moment. That's the first thing. So what I'm thinking now may not be what I'm thinking tomorrow. And it certainly is not going to be what I'm thinking 10 years from now. If you're coming out of university or college, or you're getting ready to graduate, you get out there in the real world. If you don't have stuff written down, I just have to tell you, it's downhill from here. If you listen to what I'm telling you today and you don't take any action to write down things about things that you want to accomplish, this is the most optimistic day of the rest of your life. If you want to see opportunities open up, and then you've got to write down the things that you feel in this moment, when you feel invincible, when you feel like you could do anything. Write down what you're dreaming about. Because if you write it down, it's not only capturing the thought of that moment, which will not be the same thoughts you have 10 years from now, especially if you are not living your life on purpose. You're going to be living a big disappointment. So be aware of that. But it's frozen in time. So if you write it down now, you can go back to it 10 years from now. It's still going to say the same thing it says right now. So that holds you accountable for what you wrote. And so now if I'm holding myself accountable, I am far more, this research shows us, I am far more likely to accomplish what I wrote down. Far more likely to accomplish it because it's holding me accountable. So this is very important as we get to the workshop part of this, really important that you start writing things down.